So hello everyone, good evening, and we'll wait for a couple of more minutes for other people to join and then we can start the session.
Ankit, can you mute everyone?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. Vijay Ahuja, can you mute yourself and close your camera?
Thank you. So hello everyone, we'll just start in a couple of more minutes, in 2 to 3 minutes. Vijay Ahuja, if you can, yeah, okay.
Amey, we have a count of 84. I think we are good to start. People will keep on popping in.
Okay,
All the best,
okay.
Ankit, Sonal, Amey. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So I'll just start with a brief introduction. So hello everyone, welcome to this session for Vision CA Open House. We are going to conduct regarding the investment banking, the opportunities for chartered accountant, and what are the various domains which are there. So today we have with us three of us. So Ankit Solanki, who is a November 2020 qualified CA, and he's working currently in the HDFC Bank investment banking front office. We have Sonal Mishra. Sonal works with JP Morgan, JP Morgan and Chase, and I am working in HDFC Bank investment banking division. So in today's session, we'll broadly talk about what an investment banking is all about. We'll more deep dive into what are various segments or sub-segments in investment banking. Most importantly, how should one get into it? Like, what are the skill sets required? What are things you need to do in order to crack the interviews? And then we'll open the session for your Q&As. So over to Ankit. Ankit? Ankit? Hello? Ankit? Hello, Ankit? Seems like there is some... Yeah, Ankit, you can go ahead. Ankit, you can go ahead now. Yeah. I guess you need to share the screen again.
Hello?
We lost you.
Yeah, I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible. We lost you for a moment. You can share the screen again and we can start going.
Yeah. Just a second.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly
Sure.
audible.
We can start with the presentation, right?
Yeah.
So just to give you a sense, the first thing which everyone should be aware about is where we are going, right? And what is it? So just to give you a glimpse of what an investment bank is and what an investment banker does. So in very crude language, I would say an investment bank is a broker, right? It helps a corporate to raise finance, raise capital, and also help them create growth and value for itself. So there are generally three domains in an investment bank, starting with a debt capital team, then an equity capital team, and another team is a corporate finance team, right? So these are the ways in which an investment bank will aid or help a corporate to raise capital. So I am a part of corporate finance team in HDFC. I generally focus on M&A and fundraising, dealing with the private equity guys, the venture capitals, and helping corporates to get their Series A's and all the rounds of series done. And Amey, you can help us on debt financing, debt capital market.
Sure. So so we'll start with the debt raising. So as Ankit rightly mentioned, various avenues in which you can raise a fund, and the two broad avenues is either an equity or a debt. In debt side, it's more of a, you could say, giving a debt for a project, or you can say on an acquisition financing. So broadly, the domains in the debt raising are like the project and the structured finance. So in project and structured finance, what you do is, it's mainly like you give a long-term funding, or you assist the clients to get a long-term funding for a projects which are of a high gestation period, that is around 15 or 20 years, mainly in an infra segment. So mainly like energy, roads. You give and lend a certain amount to them, you structure the deal, and you kind of help them to get the finances. That is mainly the project finance division. It also includes certain other areas which are broadly energy and infra is being the infra side. You can say the healthcare or uh, telecom industry, cement industry, etc. So that industry is also covered in the debt raising. In that, usually the work is to originate the deal, like you interact with the private equity guys, you interact with the various companies which are there, and then you kind of have the debt you kind of have a debt raised for them. You help them to for raising the funds. So mainly that is the project and structured financing. Coming up with the debt capital market, DCM. Now how it differs is that the project and structured finance is a broad conjunction of two things. One is the loan side and one is the debt or bond side. So the bond side specifically is looked after by the debt capital market. In raising of the funds by bond, it's mainly like a structured product wherein which as per the needs of the client, as per the needs of the investors which are there, they kind of structure the term sheet, they evaluate the best value proposition, and then they raise it in the market. So the origination side is kind of finding out the right set of customers or clients, and then comes to the sales side, which is like selling it to the NBFCs or the banking companies which are there, which will invest in these products. Then there comes the debt syndication. So debt syndication is broadly like you have given a loan, or you have given sanctioned a debt. So let's say it's of 1,000 crores rupees. Now, as a risk mitigant per se, a bank will never keep and hold the entire amount. What they will do is they will put a certain hold to it. Let's say of 1,000 crore loan, they will keep in their books 50%, that is 500 crores. The balance 500 crores is given out to various other in financial institutions or bank in terms of down selling it. So it's like kind of you being like an underwriter, and you kind of sell the other balance stake to the various across. So that's like a debt syndication. And then comes a monitoring side of it. So mainly the monitoring side is like whenever you have given certain exposure to any companies, in that you need to monitor those like on a regular basis. How is the project performing? What are the cash flows? Whether the cash flows are in actual with what it was anticipated while making a projection, something like that. So it's mainly from the monitoring side. So this is a broad horizon of how the debt raising happens. Debt raising also consists of certain structured products, or making certain structured models, such as like say InvIT financing or REITs financing, wherein which you kind of make a solution to clients for how to structure the debt side of the deal which is there. And typically the deals are divided across the sector, as I mentioned. So I'll over to Sonal. She'll cover up the M&A and fundraising side.
Thanks, Amey. So yes, hi. I'll cover the M&A and fundraising side of things. I work in the CRG department of JP Morgan, first of all. So I am not aligned to a particular team as an equity debt structuring M&A. I work overall. So I have a little bit of experience in everything, but for today, I'll explain to you M&A and fundraising. I don't want to go into the lingo of everything because that would be very difficult to explain. So I'll explain to you everything in short. So firstly, what comes in M&A and fundraising? Buy and sell side. So in any transaction, one company is buying another company. So there is a buyer and there is a seller. If I, as a company, decide to sell my company, then I will look for prospective buyers. And if I decide to buy a company, then I will look for prospective sellers. So what I'm doing as an investment bank is integrating both of these sides. What I do is, suppose if anybody wants to buy a company, I tell them, oh, listen, these are the companies. I get them a portfolio of companies, profiles of various companies that they could prospectively be interested in. Then I'll go and tell them, oh, if you buy this company, this is how your market share is going to increase, or this is how you're going to gain some kind of economy of scale, for example, or any kind of synergy that comes with that particular transaction. I'll inform them about it, and then they can take a decision. Once they take a decision, whether it is the buyer or the seller, and they said, okay, now we want to buy this company, we want to sell this company, then comes the execution part of the deal. In that execution part, we tell them, okay, now that you want to be buy, these are the compliances involved with it. These are the procedural formalities that needs to be done. These are the documents that need to be drafted. And yes, an investment banker take care of everything overall, maybe different. So it's not necessary that the same bank would cover all of these things. So they allot different kind of responsibility to different banks, and they come together and they advise the company for that purpose. So that will cover your buy and sell side of things. Private equity syndications. So any company who looks for, suppose, a Series A, Series B funding, what we want to do is we bring them to a private equity. Or multiple private equities. So we go, we know a lot about these private equity firms. So we kind of unite them. We can say that, oh, you guys can provide a Series A funding to this particular company, and that would be nice. Or we could kind of integrate again, same integration between a person who wants to buy and person who wants to sell or invest comes into picture here in private equity syndications. Corporate restructuring. Now here, some companies might not be completely financially viable. So sometimes they need a little bit of restructuring into their capital structure, and that is what we help them with in an investment banking transaction. I myself, in my thing, I have an FSG division which is specifically for corporate restructuring, and we provide solutions to companies who need help with their financials. So yeah, that's it. I think Ankit will take over now.
Sure. Thanks, Sonal. That was great. So I'll handle the capital markets and the IPO part. So generally, an investment banker will act like a book running lead manager. Now, to keep it simple, we aid a company to list on a capital market, a stock exchange, right? So we are the one who will define at what value this company should list on the stock market. We help them find all the institutional investors in the market. We do let's say all the road shows and non-deal road shows and all this integrities and nitty-gritties of IPO. Then then comes the QIP, that is the follow-on offer. So if a company which is already listed in the market and now they require a fund in the form of equity, we help them again go to the stock exchange and again decide the pricing and other things, find them the investors, and many other things like that. For rights issue, again, we help them at what price, what is the ideal price at which they should issue a right, and how it will help them to basically structure their capital in a way that is better for all the stakeholders, right? And these are certain things just like private placements, block trades, and pre-IPO and buyback, which are not so often done in the stock market, but these are also some services which we provide as an investment banker when it comes to a equity capital markets team. So in and out, basically, I would say we help a company from start at the valuation directly to go list in the stock exchange, and also after stock exchange, after getting listed, how they can benefit from the structuring and rights and other things. So this is a generic overview about the capital markets team. So now we will move on to what an Indian investment banking ecosystem looks like. So what we have tried to put out is the number of players in each of the domain, as we have explained, some the players in capital markets who are the leading players in capital markets, the corporate finance or M&A fundraising, the leading players there, and obviously in that capital markets, which bank are like top players there. So just to give you a sense, in capital markets, these are the top companies as per the databases, like who are the BRLMs, and they run many of the IPOs. And as seen in the last year, there are many IPOs that are coming, and these are the investment bankers who help them go list in the market. And obviously, would just give a disclaimer, this is not an exhaustive list. There are many other banks and many other investment bankers who will be there, but this is just to give you a sense of the players in the Indian ecosystem of investment banking. So now moving on to classification of investment bank, and I hope Sonal will be able to guide you on this, how investment banks are classified.
Thanks, Ankit. So investment banks, we divide them into three broad segments. The first becomes your bulge bracket investment banks. Now, these are investment banks that cover the creme of the transactions, the bigger transactions, anything that you hear in the news, that's covered by the bulge bracket investment banks. Now, there is no revenue, or there's no parameter to decide, oh, this is the, transactions exceeding this particular revenue will be covered by bulge bracket. This is a completely subjective classification, but basically any big transactions or anything that requires a lot of manpower, a lot of resources, these transactions are covered by your bulge bracket. Now in India, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, all of these are bulge bracket banks. They cover the bigger transactions. Now another thing that that you need to know is that for a CA fresher, entrance into the bulge bracket bank in on a front side is a little difficult as compared to middle end and back end. Middle end is much more easier, and middle end is the route through which you get into the front end job, because in when you're working for a middle end level, you know what's happening for in the transaction, but you're not interacting with the clients. That's the only difference. But through that, through the knowledge that you're going to gain and the experience that you're going to gain, the entrance to front end in a bulge bracket would be much more easier. Second becomes your boutique firms. Boutiques are smaller investment banks. If you get an entrance into a boutique investment bank, then you get to handle the transaction from start to end, because and you have a front end, more often a front end client experience. You get to see start to end of transactions, but they are usually smaller transactions with a smaller transaction volume, or maybe the client would have a smaller revenue. But this is also a good choice if you want to learn everything from start to end, or also you're great at interacting with the client and using that you have the the knack of doing it. Please go ahead for a boutique also. Brand name, I don't think at this point would matter as such. The other thing that needs to be covered is your middle market investment banks. Now, these are companies on the likes of EY, PwC, HSBC, ICICI, which handles the bigger chunk, which is the middle part. Again, no completely subjective, no revenue threshold, no number of employee threshold, no transaction volume threshold. But these usually cater to companies which are in the middle market. So also some companies, like a lot of big fours, they handle investment banking, but some part of the transactions. Like they will have your financial due diligence, or they will perform modeling or valuations for a company. So if you want to enter into an investment bank, you could also choose that route. So yeah, I think Amey is going to take over now.
So I will take this slide. Basically, I work in corporate finance team of HDFC, where I am in the financial sponsors group division. So what I mean by financial sponsors group is, as explained earlier, we help all the startups, or let's say a small company, to get their series done, right? And also growth stage funding and late stage funding. So this is just a gist of what we do and how we act as a broker. So an investment bank will have a contact with both a corporate as well, from which we get an idea, okay, now this company is looking to raise funds. And also we have a context with our own investors, own set of investors, to which we go and pitch the company, right? So this is the general structure, how it works. Firstly, the corporate comes to an investment bank and tells us like we want to raise our next series, right? So now we prepare a proper pitch book about the company. We prepare a teaser and roll out to all the investors, all the 50-40 sets of investors, and tell them this is the company. These are the parameters on which we position the company. And if you are interested, we can have a discussion with the management of the company. So then after the discussion, generally there is a lot of due diligence done. there is a negotiation on the valuation side of it, because we basically provide a initial value to the company at this multiple, this deal should be done, but not necessarily all the buy side managers and the private equity and venture capital guys would agree to it, right? So now this negotiation part is done, wherein we try to bring both. Obviously, the corporates will look at a higher valuation, and the private equity guys will always look at a not lower but a fair valuation, right? So we try to bring them both at one page so that the deal is closed. So after the deal is closed, obviously they will get their equity shares, equity stake, and in the form of, let's say, a CCPS, or generally the corporate finance deals are done in the form of convertibles because of some risk, and in return the corporates will get their capital which they require. So in the market, as you might be hearing, like there are lot many unicorns that are getting and lot many startups that are getting the tag of unicorns, right? So this is just at the what valuation these companies get, right? When this deal is done, let's say this is a $1 billion, that value the company investment banking. Now moving on to what a normal day of an investment banker would look like, and I like Amey to take this.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. So in a normal day of an investment bank, so broadly to cover up, it would be largely same. Most of the things would be similar for across the people, across the thing, but it may differ from a person to person, from the sector to sector, and what stage of deal you have. So covering up a general what a day in life of an investment banker looks like. The first thing is understanding about your segment and understanding about the industry. So broadly, and in an investment bank, let it be bulge bracket, let it be mid market or any boutique, they usually divide the analyst and associates at a various sectors. So let's say one being in the infra, one being in the telecom sector, one being in the technology side. In that particular sector, you are supposed to be a sector expert. So you need to understand what all deals which are going in the market, what all deals which are currently running, what valuation they are running through, what all the market movement is, and how are the parameters through which the market is driven by. So that's the broadly known as the industrial analysis. So in that, you need to understand what are the sector updates which are there. You need to understand various potential opportunities or outreach opportunities which we can do, because as an investment banker, which Ankit and Sonal rightly mentioned, they are like a middleman. So the basis the understanding of the industry, most of the decisions are taken. So let's say if someone wants to buy a particular company, right now is a time to enter that company because of the fair valuation which they get in. So that's can be understood through sector understanding. Coming up with the next part, which is like the pitch book and the collateral preparation. So once you understood, like once let's say a buy side or a sell side mandate, you understood that okay, this he wants to sell these assets or he wants to sell this company. The next step would be to make a pitch book or a presentation. In that presentation, usually at an initial stage, it's on a no-name basis, considering that the deal is not yet consummated, as well as there is no NDA or some data sharing agreement signed. So initially that is on a no-name basis. You make a pitch, a presentation. You show that pitch to various private equity investors. You show that pitch to various investors which are there, and then they will think, okay, whether should we invest, whether should we think about it and go ahead with the transaction. Although there would be a lot of due diligence side involved later. So in the pitch book presentation, it's mainly like understanding how the company is structured, the company profile, how you position the company across the segment. So whether it is a top 10 companies, and whether it's how are the industry parameters, how it compares with the benchmark of it. And then comes the valuation side. So considering what are the DCF valuation, the comparable multiples which are there. Coming up next of the deal flow cycle is the investor meets and ideation. So once you make a pitch book or presentation, you go out to the investor, you tell them about what all opportunities you as an investment banker has. And usually it happens like some of the private equity company wants to buy something, some might want to exit because of the general life cycle of 6 to 8 years, which they want to obviously churn and return out the profits to the investors of the private equity. So usually what happens is they kind of meet the investment bankers, meet the private equity people, they update on the markets, they discuss the opportunity, and they ideate a transaction. Post everything is done, they appoint, they sign a non-binding agreement, they sign a binding agreement, they do a due diligence, a detailed due diligence for making SPA, that is share purchase agreement negotiation. So it's like it's mainly the deal execution side. Here we as an investment banker interacts with various legal consultants, so top legal firms are interacted. We do understand with a technical consultant, let's say for an infra project or for road, for example, it might be a traffic consultant example. For energy side, it may be some other consultant. So we interact with those specific consultants, and accordingly an entire deal cycle is considered. I would also like Sonal to add her viewpoint on how her deal cycle looks like.
Thanks, Amey. So yes, my deal cycle also kind of looks the same. We have your research. We need to research on your company, the background of the company, the background of the industry that the company is working in, the market in that. So again, for me, I don't deal with India. I am associated with FIG-EMEA, which is Financial Institution Groups in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa division. So in my case, I have to know, okay, suppose if I have a deal in Czech Republic, so I have to see what the market is like in Czech Republic at that time, do a market research on Czech Republic, see where the company stands in that particular country. So that becomes an additional part in my deal cycle. So yes, again, industry and company research, you have your, again, pitch book meetings. We have a lot of pitch book preparations happening. It's most like, 50% of the work I would say is pitch book preparation, because, again, investment banking divided into two parts, marketing and execution broadly. So marketing may, you do your research, you pitch it to the clients, you have client meetings, you have more client meetings, the client wants to hear more ideas, so you pitch them again, you bring them other seller or another buyer, and that goes on and on. So yes, pitch books and collateral preparations. Then you have your investor meets and ideation. Once your client decides that, okay, suppose I want to have like my debt issued, or I want to have an IPO of my company, then we begin our roadshow preparation of roadshow presentations. We start meeting the investors, we generate ideas, we tell them about opportunities, and then of course comes the deal execution part of it, when the real things happen. Again, with the clients, we have all those negotiations happening. What should be the valuation, when should the deal happen, if it's a bond issue, then what should be the rating of the bond, etc., etc., etc. All the nitty-gritties involved are covered in that part. So yes, similar process.
Yeah, so just to add on, what at analyst level we would do is work on a lot of the databases, right? Work on Bloomberg, work on Thomson Icon, and try to find out the comparables of the company. We try to find out at what multiples the other companies are getting listed and things like that. It is more about execution at this stage. And even though at front office, I get to be in the investor meetings and the pitches and other things, our role is just to take notes, right? We are allowed to speak, but at this stage, we generally take notes and then shoot out the notes. At this stage, we are given this opportunity to just understand what the investor wants, what the concerns are there with the investors about any company, and how a company pitches. So front-end experience is there, obviously, but you are not really expected to speak in the client meetings, but just be there and understand how the actual process works. So by large, the work at back office and mid office will be the same in the initial days, 1 or 3 years. But obviously, you will get this experience of data room management. Let's say I personally have this experience of the due diligence. We are running a M&A deal, right? So there are many DD teams for this due diligence thing, and we are the ones who try to cooperate between the seller and the buyer, and try to arrange the data at one place and work on other things like that. So this is a general day of an investment banker at analyst position. Moving on, what
Also, Ankit, just one thing that I would want to point out, that even in the mid office, we are allowed to attend the investor meetings and client meetings. We cannot speak
correct,
mostly in it.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. So moving on to skills required and developed by an investment banker, here we have tried to pull out few things which, according to us, are very much needed at the early stages. Like and also this helps a lot for interview preparations, where and what is really expected by at a fresher level, right? So one thing, obviously, you should be very strong with your SFM. I would like to say the financial things, like you should really know how a company is valued, what is a DCF model, and how a company is valued using the relative valuation and all the methods of valuation like that. Then comes obviously the comparable analysis, the relative valuation. And at this level, you are not required to know you are not supposed to be very good at presentations, but you should have you should have worked on that, right? In your articleship days, if at all you have worked, which becomes an add-on. So these are certain things which you will develop over the years in investment bank. And uh, at fresher level, you should know all this financial terms, DCF and multiples and other things. And I would like Amey to take the further side on this.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ankit. So we have covered about the business financial modeling, the business valuation. I'll just take up briefly on some transaction documents and considering what all the relationship management and the sales and development, business development side looks like. So considering the transaction documents, the first being an information memorandum. So in the initial slides, we mentioned about like giving an information about a particular company to the investor. That's broadly an information memorandum. So giving the details which are required for an investment decision are required, for which they can just further get into the details of it. So it's broadly most of the crucial aspect. Sometimes these are no name basis, sometimes they are directly on a name basis. So that's a broadly an information memorandum is. And as an analyst is concerned, they are required to prepare those, and they are further reviewed across through the level of hierarchies which are there. Considering the share price in purchase agreements, in terms of term sheets, the drafting of the basic term sheet is done by the legal which is there, but the commercial intent or any sorts of negotiation which is there, it's undertaken by the investment banker. So in after getting it reviewed from the legal consultant sends us the draft, we review these agreements, we kind of have our own notings and comments, and then when we deal and interact with the various stakeholders like the investors which are there and the company as well, and post interaction and post finalizing, the term sheets are finalized. So it's a broad process. It starts with like expression of interest and then till the final term sheet, and then it comes the documentation part, that is making the entire agreement which is there. So that's mainly on the transaction document side. Coming up with the relationship management and sales and business development, so covering these together because that's one of the crucial aspects. So in terms of a front office investment banker which is concerned, so they are mainly kind of involved in certain meetings like a physical meeting as well, because the clients are based out of Mumbai. In that way, you need to kind of be a spock for a junior level guy in a, let's say, a private equity or a company which is there. So in terms of any data sharing, you are supposed to directly coordinate with the particular private equity associate or a company person which is there, and they will share the data. So for junior level discussion, for like data exchanges, or let's say small negotiation or small considering small changes which are there in the term sheet or agreement, we can as an front office investment banker, they can discuss directly, although with certain supervision or supervision from the seniors which are there. So that's broadly from a sales and business development. So we do keep a track as an investment banker through various sectors. So you should have a particular, in terms of getting a skills, you should have a particular fluency and command over the language English. Also, you should have a, you should be pleasing, or you should be pleasing in terms of how you say, the clarity of thoughts which you should have. And that's a broad basic skills which are required in an investment banker. Coming up with the next skill, I request Sonal to cover that up.
Um,
So,
yes.
yeah, basically negotiates.
Apart,
Sorry.
apart from all of this, guys, I cannot stress. I mean, I feel like financial modeling, business valuation, you need to know the concepts, but you can learn the things on the job. There are a lot of trainings that every bank subjects you to once you enter the job. But I cannot stress enough on how important it is to know your Excel, your PowerPoint. It should be on top of your fingers. All the shortcuts, you should know them. It makes life much more easier. Along with that, you should be very good with your financials. That is essential. You should be able to look at your financials and see the numbers and know if a ratio is wrong, or if a ratio is too high, or if something is wrong with the financial. I think you should be very prompt with your financials. Along with that, negotiation and presentation skills are also important. Presentation skills at this point of time, on an analyst level, not so much, because you will not be presenting per se, but obviously eventually it will be of need. But also, again, soft skills are always it always comes in handy when you're trying to talk to somebody, or trying to put in your idea. So it's always a plus point. Negotiation skills, again, not required at this moment, but eventually you will have to negotiate. So you can learn a lot of it on the job, but it's a plus if you have those as well. Yeah. Ankit, you were saying something.
Yeah, sure. So just that the skills like negotiation skills and presentation skills, which will be developed over time. At this stage, you are generally required to know all the basic stuffs of finance, and that's it. In the interviews, they will just ask all sort of questions related to modeling and ratios and financials, and they are not required. They will not judge you on your presentation skills and negotiation skills and things like that. So that's it. So this is what we have from our side. Now we would request all of you to ask any questions if you have, and unmute yourself first, and then ask any questions.
I request everyone to first raise their hands, and then by sequentially we can unmute for a better management. Yeah, so we have already 5-6 of hands raised. So starting with Harshil Kothari. Harshil, you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Okay, very good evening to everybody, and it was a very nice presentation first of all, and good to see people like you sharing your experiences. It's a great pleasure first of all, and thank you for this. So I have basically two questions. One is, can you please explain the meaning of information memorandum once again? That is my first question. Should I ask my second question or afterwards?
You can ask your second question. That's fine.
My second question is, recently I've read somewhere in YouTube or some in article something about SPAC. So I thought it should be covered over here. I think it's like special purpose acquisition
Acquisition
vehicle something.
company. Yeah.
And I have heard that they are blank check companies, something like people who want to invest in the companies where a lot of M&As require 18 months of something. So there are people like, suppose by Ambani's, they take Ambani's and they just sign a blank check, and these companies directly take it. But is this a scam kind of a company? So there's a real thing in this is running in this market. So my question is, these two are my questions.
Okay, great one. I'll just take the first one, the information memorandum side of it. So in information sorry, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So in information memorandum, so it is a particular document, a set of document, let's say 50 or 80 odd pages document, which will cover up the most of the critical aspect relating to a transaction. It starts with the basic detail, as such a very basic detail like your company name, and it will go on to like what all the details of the transaction is all about. Let's say about a project. How is that project? What is the credit rating? How exactly is the implementation plan? What all things a particular project will require? What are the debt equity structure? How are the future capex planned? What is the future projected revenue? What are the assumptions? Why are these assumptions taken? What is the industry analysis? What is you as an investment banker's view in that? So it's broadly covers most of the critical aspects and the construct of a transaction. So that is an information memorandum. So it's like all the information which you have, you pile it up together and you present it as a presentable, structurally organized document to the investors, to the intended parties which are there. So the work of preparing an information memorandum is of an investment banker majorly, and
Okay.
it is definitely reviewed by the internal team as well as the client which is there for ensuring the proper data management. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next question.
So answering to your second question, at this
Yes,
stage
please.
in India, specs are not much relevant here in India. But what I would like to say is this is not a scam. Obviously, the idea is to go list in foreign exchange markets. Let's say a Flipkart was planning a spec last year, right? So the idea is
Hmm.
the blank check company will acquire the stakes of Flipkart, and then that company will go list in the foreign exchange market. So this is the general idea of it. But obviously in India today there are not many specs, and so yeah, that's the thing.
I just want to add that because I work in the European market, SPACs are very, very, very common. Like every third deal, is by like is a SPAC acquisition. So SPAC is not definitely not a SPAC scam or anything. It is just an instrument which makes it much more easier for you to do your job and kind of provides delegation in that sense.
Can I get any website where I can read about this pack express? I mean, just a case study, a small of a thing. Any website, on internet, something. If you have any idea about that.
So there will be many new news articles regarding to it, and where you can get some idea. Investopedia or something like a corporate financial institute will website will
Okay.
help you on that.
Okay. Fine. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next we have Saket Jalan. Hope I pronounced your name correct. Yeah.
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 Hi. First of all, very good evening to all of you, and thank you so much for this presentation to give so much clarity about this career. So I actually have two questions. So my first question is like during our articleship, what kind of role should we opt for if we are looking to get a career in investment banking? Like, if I get into stat audit in Big Four, will that help me to get a career into investment banking? And what kind of skills can I focus during my articleship so that it will be little easy for me to get into investment banking as I clear CA? And can I ask my second question?
Yes, please.
Okay, so and my second question is like if I am qualify as a chartered accountant, and if I'm looking to get into private equity, so yeah, does CA degree helps you to get give so much flexibility that you can also get into private equity even after clearing CA, or we have to do MBA or CFA to get into such niche profiles?
Uh, I'll take the first question, Saket.
And I'll take the
I
second one.
I myself am from a stat audit background in Deloitte. And I can say that being in stat audit really does help you get into investment bank, in the sense that when you audit a company, you are going through the financials of a company and getting an understanding on how the company works overall. When you know how one company works overall, and when you have seen it working, it helps you to understand other companies and how they work as well, how they should be structured. If you will immediately know what is wrong in the balance sheet of another company if you've audited one balance sheet, because you have seen the differences, you have rationalized why there are those differences, why are there those changes, why are there inconsistencies. When once you have a knack of spotting inconsistencies, you will be able to do it here as well, which always helps. You will be able to understand everything a little better. You would be able to profile a company better. You'll be able to know how a company works properly. And the other thing that you said, what skills that you should concentrate on while you are doing your articleship, I would say please concentrate on your soft skills. Please concentrate on your excels. The shortcuts, the formulas, all of those things come into handy much more than you would think. And learned it the hard way. Definitely, please concentrate on that. Other thing, your SFM, when you do your CA final studies, you need to get a good hand on SFM. Please don't take it lightly. You need to clear your concepts. Please just don't do the sums for the sake of it or know how to do a sum. You need to have that kind of conceptual clarity. Yes, Amey, the second question.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I also would like to ask, should we do CFA as well? Try L1 by clearing, try clearing L1 till we end our articleship. Will
Again,
that give an edge?
I had cleared 2 levels of CFA when I got into JP. So I wouldn't lie if I said that it wouldn't give an edge. I wouldn't say it's necessary. It's not. It's definitely not. But it does help. CFA curriculum is, in my opinion, a very good curriculum to understand your basics. And because it's objective, right? So you need to understand concepts. You cannot just beat around the bush when you're giving the paper. So yes, I think it would be a good add-on. Yeah. Amey.
Before answering the second question, I would like to just add to what Sonal said. So your profile in articleship will really not matter for investment banking role, right? I have seen people from direct tax, people who have done their direct tax and articleships, even got a front office role in an investment bank. So it is more about your basic knowledge about things and how well you do your own work, right? So that is not necessary what role you are doing. And secondly, degree is not as a entry for a role, right? Degree is just to help you get knowledge about certain things. So CFA will definitely help you have that knowledge about things like, and in more detail, right? And more detail than what rather CA SFM would help you to get. So this will be just an add-on to your interview process, but this is obviously not necessary for doing any CFA or getting into any specific role to get into an investment banking division. Yeah. Amey, over to you.
Yeah, okay. So just to add up the second question which you asked initially regarding entry into the private equity space. So broadly, I'll just discuss an entry point. So for a private equity, there are 2 entry points. Mostly one being an investment bank, second being a management consulting. So I've seen people from both the routes going into the private equity role, but it's very rare in an initial stage, that is just as you start your career post your fresher, to get into private equity, because that's the way, because private equity hire people who are a bit experienced, so they should understand what are the nuances which are there, and understand how the transaction is executed end to end. That's the one of the basic asks which they have. And since to get those skills, the best way to get in is an investment bank or a management consulting. Now, sometimes what happens is getting into investment bank itself becomes a challenging, or a bit becomes itself a difficult. Another route being going into valuations or a FDD, financial due diligence. Post doing a valuation or FDD, you can get into investment banking, and then you can move into the private equity. Again, I've seen certain people going directly from a financial due diligence to a private equity. Now, one of the main crucial factor is that for a private equity, they require a diligence side also. So the diligence side, and as a FDD, financial due diligence is concerned, they interact with the private equity people because they are doing the transaction for them. So through that network, they develop connects and they are internally absorbed by the private equity players. So that's also an alternative route to entry into private equity. But getting it directly post your CA qualification immediately seems difficult. Although there might be certain 1 or 2 cases which are there, but initially it's difficult.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Over to Rushabh. Yeah, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good evening to all the speakers and the participants out here. So recently, in just few days back, I cleared my CA exams. So I had an articleship experience in internal. Thank you, ma'am. So I had an articleship experience in internal audit. So if I want to switch from internal audit to investment banking, will my investment banking? That's my question.
Sorry, we lost you in a between. After internal audit, we lost you in between. Can you just repeat that part?
Yeah. So So I have a strong internal audit experience. So can I switch from internal audit to investment banking? Will my skills of internal audit help in investment banking? That's my question. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are
Yeah,
audible.
Yep.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So, as mentioned earlier, there is no particular role in your articleship which will help you to get into investment banking. It is your knowledge about certain, and finance is very much relevant here. So, obviously, every role will help you. Like what you have learned in your internal audit will, you might have a good experience with the particular sector, right? Let's say you have worked on an infrastructure sector a lot, and in interviews they will ask you in and out about the infrastructure sector. So then if you have a very strong knack over what you have worked there, and this will be a very good plus in your interview. But obviously, again, there is no specific role which will help you get into investment banking. It is more about your knowledge of things.
Okay. And the other question is there any course available which we can do to enhance our skills to to come up with to be proficient in at times of interviews?
So there are no, like, there are many courses obviously available on many platforms, something like Udemy, on where you will learn modeling, right? People will not help you to get into investment banking. People will help you to know what are the basics of modeling, how to create a financial model. And obviously in some interviews the investment banks also give you a case study wherein you, at least in my case, I was given a case study where I had to prepare a financial model of a company, right, and a presentation on it. So the courses will help you to get this basic things done. But some obviously courses won't help you to give you a great detail about what investment banking is as a role is as such. And just to add on, Vision CA is also having a boot camp program wherein we help students and CA freshers particularly to get their CV reviewed done, and we help them. Conduct all the mock interviews with our own experiences. So this can be a great experience for you, and an aid to get into investment banking, because you will be directly interacting with people who are into investment banking. So yeah, this is a thing which can help you rather get into an investment banking role.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Ankit.
Yeah, thanks.
Mohit, you are next. Please unmute.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
audible.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, question is that we seen that the companies like Zomato, Nykaa, the big ones that are listed on stock exchange, and suddenly they lost their valuation, like Paytm also. Why do such high valuation has been done, and now suddenly between a month and 2 months, 3 months, they lost such a huge valuation gap? And the second
Yeah,
thing that
probably this is more of a practical
Yeah,
solution, and you
yeah,
can
yeah,
connect
yeah.
offline. We'll take the other question. Yeah, thanks.
Correct.
Kaushik, you can go next. So generally to give a brief about it, consider I'm asking profile related specific question rather than industry scenarios, because for industry scenarios you will have a detailed and more detail oriented videos available on YouTube, and which are very thoughtfully researched. And I think so better to search upon them, or you can connect with across anyone across to
With us in offline as well, but
yeah.
since we are running short of
Out
time,
of
we would
time.
request people to ask questions relating to profile, wherein we can really help them rather than
Yeah.
all these technical questions.
Yeah. Okay, Kaushik, you are next, please.
Hello, good evening, everyone. First of all, the session was so great. Thank you for that. My questions have recently qualified as CA this attempt.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. The thing is, which I have come up across certain profiles which are of kind of controllership roles. I think most of them are in back-end jobs, I guess. Like, how do we exactly identify if we want to go to at least middle level office or something like that? Like, what is the avenue for us to identify other than this campus, other things?
Okay, so your mainly question lies upon how to get into investment banking. Is that what your question?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So, answering your question, how to get into investment banking. So, yes, one thing being campus, but campus hiring are very less. What I've heard is hardly very few companies come in campus for investment banking roles. I've heard SBI as one of them to have investment banking role. So majorly for an investment banking role, you have to check out LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is very active across job posting. You will get from various companies in the mid markets or a bulge bracket. Then there is like big companies such as bulge bracket companies such as JP Morgan, which conduct their own off-campus recruitment drive. Sonal can definitely add on upon that. So in that JP Morgan off-campus, they will invite a lot of candidates, and then they will conduct various rounds, starting from your test, aptitude test. Then they will have certain financial modeling or a case study based question, and followed on by the interviews. So that's one of the way. And third thing being networking with the people. So that's the broadly three avenues through which you can enter into an investment bank post you qualify. So now you can just add up more on how the recruitment process happens for such bulge bracket banks. Yeah.
Right. So for JP Morgan specifically, how I entered, I will tell you. There's an off-campus recruitment drive that happens. You get to know about these through networks. Again, networking is very important for that. You get to know it by some friend who's also trying. So it's important when you're giving your interviews to stay connected with everybody. It's important to stay connected with people who are already working in JP Morgan, because they get mails for these kind of drives. Like we get mails every time drives happen. So then we can, uh, uh, take it forward and send across it to the HRs concerned. The first step in those drives, the first is an aptitude test. In the aptitude test, you'll have questions based on your quantitative aptitude, your accounting, and your general economics. Uh, the aptitude test works on the basis of a percentile system. Certain percentile of people will go in the other round. The other round is with the managers over there, and they will ask you questions on various segments. They'll ask you questions based on quants, mental maths. There's a lot of like your they basically test how good you are with your concepts, the conceptual clarity, the clarity of terms, how well you know it. They'll ask you very basic questions, but a little bit tricky also. So it's that. Then the next round will usually be a VP round. VP round is usually to check how good you perform under pressure, because most of the questions that they ask you over there are difficult and you would probably not be able to answer them. It's a little bit difficult, but again, they want to test how you work under pressure. So these are the three rounds that happens. After that, the results are declared.
Just to add the portals which are there, I've also posted across the chat. So one being the LinkedIn jobs, which post for that. Second being, do also register your profile for Naukri.com and the Times job. Certain recruiters do access the database and they will call you accordingly. You also have to register on IIM jobs portal, which have a lot of finance related openings, basically investment banking. So these are the broad four portals which I relied upon. So yeah, okay.
And with respect to the controllership kind of profiles, like how that works, like what's your take on that?
Okay. Can we restrict these questions to specific to investment banking? If that works out, because
no, I mean no. I saw in Goldman Sachs, even they are taking for kind of controllership profile, finance controllership.
Okay, got it. So you mean to say in the investment bank a controllership profile? Okay.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
got it. Now it's got it, because the controllership profile can be in industry also. It can be in, as you say.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So in terms of that controllership profile, it's not linked. See, being an investment bank, it does not mean that all the jobs which are there are relating to investment banking. There are certain jobs which are other different avenues, one being the finance side, one being the accounting side, others being, let's say, business management or relationship, the credit side. So other segments are also there. So controllership profile broadly would be in the domain of accountancy and certain controls which are there. So it may be like a management control or a risk side of it. So that's not an investment banking profile, to be very not an investment banking profile, and it's certain mid or back office kind of profile which is there. So I hope that answers your question. So specific JDs, you can just have an understanding on the specific JDs, and then you can evaluate the decision.
Yeah, okay. Through that, will it be possible for us to move from that to the higher end or the front end? Is there any possibility through that? Suppose
So
initially
yeah, a good question. A good question. So one thing, if you are a CA fresher, for initial 1 to 2 years, you can definitely move across the profile. But once you be or take a more than that experience in any profile, it's difficult to switch. So I guess that answers your question. So obviously it depends on your skills and the other aspects, but this is a broad answer which we can give relating to shifting of profiles. Yeah. So
thank you.
yeah, okay, thanks. Twinkle,
Hello.
yeah.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for this amazing session. Actually, I have one question about the technical session. What should I prepare for the technical session in JP Morgan?
I'll take this. Technical sessions. So for technical session, it's usually divided. First, they will start with accounts related questions. Accounts related questions are not complex for somebody who's a chartered accountant. They will basically ask you, they will give you a transaction, for example, a depreciation entry, and they'll tell you, okay, now tell me how this depreciation entry affects all the accounts. So they will ask you about your cash flow, they'll ask you about how it affects your statement of financial position, your profit and loss, all of that, reserves, what happens, that kind of thing. So if you have a good hold on your balance sheet, you'll be able to answer that. Now this is regarding accounts. Secondly, it is please go through your SFM portion for the technical part of JP round, because you'll be asked question for FCFF, what is FCFE, how do you arrive from FCFF to FCFE, what is the difference between the two, what all of those questions. Again, different kinds of ratios you have to prepare for. Then you have to kind of have a knowledge of macroeconomics. So you have to know national income ka formula kya hota hai, what is GDP, etc., etc. Your basic macroeconomic questions. I think Vision CA also has a preparation session for. Correct me if I'm wrong, Amey. There's some kind of session, right, for the preparation for technical round.
Yeah, so boot camp,
the
so
boot camp.
in boot camp, so in boot camp preparation, so in terms of, let's say, investment banking is concerned, so you can have a mock group discussion, you can have your CV reviewed, you can have the personal interview with an investment banker who had cleared previously, and basically that's the broad thing. Also certain other things being in the LinkedIn review. Yeah, that's majorly covers up the part.
There's
That will
also
be
some
covered?
mental maths questions. Sorry.
Okay. No.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
No, I'm just asking that will be start from?
It has started, so you can register. So we'll share across the details after this meeting. So you can just kind of register across. So we'll share across in all the groups regarding boot camps, and you can register.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Rushabh. One more thing, who are directly messaging me, it's better I'm not having access to that chat directly, so it would be better if you just raise your hands, because it's difficult for me to read the chats and go through the questions right at this stage. So if you can raise your hands and then ask the question, that would be helpful. Rushabh, you can go next.
Hello everyone, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, so my first question was, what are the 3 or 4 most important tips for cracking investment banking interview? Like that is must needed. Like, so if there are many, and secondly, how is the work-life balance at any investment banking firm or this? Please.
Yeah, I guess our Smile will answer that question, of course.
I would like to take this question. The first question regarding what top 3 skills there are. Obviously, as mentioned previously as well, your basic knowledge relating to finance, right? All the stuffs in SFM. I had given 5 rounds of interview. from a VP round to a MD round, and for me it was only technical round here. Like they asked me all things which I have done in my articleship experience, and let's say I had worked on a D2H company, right? And they told me, now how will you value this company? Give us the parameters on how will you identify this company. So your articleship experience is very, very, very necessary when it comes to investment banking interview, because they will obviously grill you over what you have done in your articleship and what you have done practically, rather than all your academic knowledge which you have gathered over 3 years and in your CA final. And be very confident in interviews. This is like a very generic thing, but obviously investment banking interviews are difficult to crack given the technical things and the difficulty and stress interviews, the way they ask questions. But you will have to be very super confident about things and know your basics well, and try to answer as many whatever you know, and just don't bluff around things. If you don't know, please mention I don't know this thing, but you can't really bluff things there, because they are very smart and they know many things more than you. So these are certain skills which you might require for an investment banking role.
Yeah. To add what Ankit has said, be confident. The most important thing is be confident, because what happens is they can it's very simple. Like, let's say you are taken into a client's place, and when you are interacting and they ask you some basic question and you are not that confident, that might affect the deal. So I have personally faced this up, because when I was meeting a client, and if you are not confident that time, even the investor or even the client would be not confident on investing in, because ultimately investment banking is an advisory business, and they pay you fees for the advisors. So it is utmost important to be confident in the interview. So they look at your confidence skills which are there. Now you may counter it, like why it is required for an analyst or an associate or a junior level position. They will not look you as a junior resource. They will definitely try to groom you up till you become a VP or AVP. So typically in a life cycle, you could say like 6 years, you will become a AVP kind position. In that, you have to directly interact and execute the entire transaction. So it is very important for them to identify such people since the inception, and that's the main reason a confidence is required. So that's one of the skills.
Just one more thing. In this particular, kind of interviews, do they ask case studies? Like, this case studies a part of this interviews, or and if it is, then are there any free resources available from where we can prepare such case studies, like for our interviews?
So by case studies, in my experience, I was asked to prepare a business model about for a company and a presentation, and there are no particular case studies, and that are asked in interviews in the rounds of interviews, but they will revolve around a certain thing. Let's say, as I mentioned, if you have done a work in a particular sector, they will ask you in and out about that sector, and you should be very much aware of certain things. Let's say, and they might ask you certain basic news, like certain news in that sector. Let's say how a PLI scheme will affect the industrial sector. If you have worked on that, then you should be aware of all the recent things that are going around. So that's the thing.
Okay. And about the work-life balance.
Obviously, work-life balance will be hectic. Obviously, it demands a lot of efforts from your side. When it comes to pitches, you will be expected to work like 16 hours a day. But for other days, when you are working on a deal, it depends. Like at what stage the deal is, right? And some days you might work for, let's say, 9 to 10 hours. Some days, so it generally depends on the work pressure. But when there is a pitch, obviously you are required, and there is no excuse. You will have to work for 16 hours, and yeah, that's there.
Okay. Thank you, Ankit. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Ajit Kumar.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for investing time for the CA freshers. Really, it helped me a lot, this meeting. Thank you so much. I'm attending the video from Chennai. So I'm thinking to get into office in Mumbai or Bangalore. What do you suggest me, whether it is fine to be in Chennai or go to Mumbai or Bangalore. Hello.
Yeah, so it depends on what opportunity you have, and it depends on a lot of factors, right? I have seen people moving from one of my colleague in HDFC moved from like Chennai and came here as a fresher, and it depends on what you really want, right? And there obviously there are opportunities in Chennai as well and other places. Like in Bangalore, there are many investment banks, and so you can try all of them, but it depends on your I would say look out for things, right? Uh, but obviously, majority of the investment banks are in Mumbai, having their head office in Mumbai. So you might, if you are looking something like O3 or let's say all the mid-market banks, generally they are based out of Mumbai.
Mumbai or Delhi,
Delhi, yeah.
Delhi
Correct.
also are based. Even Bangalore has some of the office. So most of the metro cities, most of the main big four metro cities have it. So Mumbai, Mumbai, Delhi, even Bangalore has it. So I guess mostly for your job profile, you might consider moving if you want a specific role. Yeah.
Okay, and one more doubt I have. So Sonal Mishra, I'm told that it is very difficult to, not very difficult, a little difficult to get into front office in investment bank. So she told that getting in middle end, after that moving into front office is much easier. So I'm not a ranker, and I'm not from a Big Four background. I did my articles in Chennai. It's a mid firm, which my 3 years of articles went around stat audit, GST audit, and tax audit. So what are all the skills I need to develop to get into investment bank?
So Ajit, actually, please don't yes, it is a little difficult to get into front office, but since I work in the mid office myself, I know a lot of people who don't have a rank and who do not have an experience in a big four background, and they have still been hired with me for the mid office role. So it is perfectly fine, it's perfectly okay to have that and still be hired. You do not need any additional skills, just what we have spoken about. You need to ace your technical round, you need to have a good knowledge of your technicals, and that would be it. And again, of soft skills, confidence, all of that. These kind of things, they are preferred, but they are not necessary, not at all, for a middle office role. And then yes, front office does become easier after that. Yeah.
To add upon Sonal's point, so in case, let's say you're going to bulge bracket banks and they hire you for mid office, usually what I've heard is like after post 2 years or so, the top performers are given an opportunity to work in India office as well. So in case if you want to go through that route, of course you
One
can.
and a half, yes.
18 months, yeah.
Yeah,
18 months they usually shift you to the India office if you're a good performer, if you have performed exceptionally well in the period, and the opportunity is definitely given. Also, if you want to specifically go into front office, definitely try out the Indian banks or the mid markets which are there. So they do hire for front office.
Yeah, correct. So just to give you an idea, 5 years ago, there were very few investment banking profiles available for a CA fresher. But today I can give you 10, just of 10 or 12 mid-market companies. Someone like EY is hiring freshers. Someone like O3 Capital is hiring CA freshers. Ambit is hiring. So there are many avenues available for CA freshers as well at this moment. And the markets are very lucrative, right? So they also require a lot of staff. And I have seen many CA freshers, non-rankers getting into a front-end investment banking role, getting into a mid-office investment banking role. So yeah, there is no barrier as such in terms of a rank or a profile, articleship profile, something like that for getting into these things.
Yeah, ultimately the skills matter in the longer run. So that's what is. Yeah. Who was next? Ajit, you did, right?
Amey, before anyone starts, can I just read out a question asked by Varun in the chat? For some reasons, he will not be able to ask it, so I'll just ask him on his ask the question on his behalf.
Okay.
I have heard of organization like Ematicus Wall Street School IB course, since they provide placement guarantee with list of people placed on their brochure on a condition of giving their private entrance test before joining their program. Or is it just a hype and a marketing gimmick? Now, I have not heard about this, so I will not be able to answer this. So if you guys could take it up.
Yeah, same here. I have never come across these things. So
Yeah, similar to me, I have read about these names, like they do provide that, but I have definitely not personally used it, so I'm not able to comment on that. So I've heard about the Wall Street School IB, so I had visited their page to see what it is, but I have not heard anyone who has taken that course, so I might not be the right person to comment on that. One more question, Amey has asked me directly, so kindly,
Thank you, everybody.
yeah. So kindly guide on the process of Indian investment bank like HDFC, etc. How to apply an interview criteria. So I guess this question is broadly covered, like how the hiring process is. So you can reach out to job portals which are there, and then the hiring process is pretty much the same, but pretty much the same, only that it may differ across the person. Like some might have 5-6 rounds of interview, some might have 3-4 rounds of interview, some might have case study, some might not have. Like let's say for majorly for a fresher kind of interview, they do take a case study. For me, I was like a bit 1 year experienced, so for me it was no case study for me, and it was directly an interview. So it differs from a person to person, differs from an organization to organization, and yeah, so that's the process. Yeah. Next is Aditya.
Hello, I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
So my first question is, like, do they consider attempts, CA final attempts while hiring? And the second question is, if I can't make it to investment banking as a fresher, what are the other entry points where I can go, and after 2 years I can go to investment?
Okay, so the second part of question is we have already answered. Just to reiterate, if you don't get into investment banking, try out the next best alternative, which is FDD or valuation. And after a certain 1 or 2 years of experience, you can get into investment banking. Alternatively, you can also do is take up a small investment bank, which is their boutique investment bank. Then after 1 or 2 years of experience, you can shift to the bulge bracket or a mid-market front office role, which is there. For the first question, which is there, that is, do attempts matter? Again, that's a very subjective thing. It doesn't matter a lot. Ultimately, it matters the skill set. Definitely, a rank or a first attempt might give you edge in initial stage, but in the long run, it all equates. So in that way, definitely the skill sets matter. And I guess hope that answers. Anyone else has that point to be added? Ankit or Sonal?
yeah, that covers it all.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
So next is
Thank you so much.
Tanushri Jain. Tanushri Jain. Tanushri, you're not audible. Okay, Tanushri, I suggest you just drop the question on the chat box, since in the interest of time, we can move on to the next one. Varun?
Hello.
Varun? Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have already asked my. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. You just raise down your hand so that it would be easier for tracking. Yeah.
Sure.
Sai Chandana.
Yeah, hi all. Hope you all have had a very good day today. So thanks for conducting this webinar today. This was amazing, and thanks for taking up this initiative of conducting webinars like this. It helps people like us in a great way possible. So my question here is the first one. Hi Sonal ma'am. This goes to you, and the second one also probably you will take up. So the first question is like you were talking about mental maths, right? So is that like even after clearing all the rounds, technical one, if at the time of interview, if one is not able to like answer the questions in mental math, would that really affect? That's the first question. And the second one is like I would really like to know your experience with JP. How is it? How and your learnings, like Ankit, so and Amey, so it would be great if you could also share your experience, working experiences and learnings as well. It would be a great help for all of us on the webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. Actually, mental maths is not to know your knowledge on mental maths. It is purely to see how you work under stress, because most of these questions you will have to think. They want to see how you think, how you arrive to that conclusion, how you arrive to that answer. They are not looking for a perfect answer. To be very honest, in my own technical round, out of 6 mental maths question, I was able to answer like 2 of them, and I still got in. So it's fine. They just want to see how you're arriving to the answer and how you're working under stress, and if you're like trying to bluff or are you trying to cheat, all of that stuff, so it's not particularly to test your mental math, so don't worry about that. Secondly, my experience with JP so far has been pretty good. I have gotten to work into a lot of transactions where, I mean, in mid office, you kind of expect that you would be eventually handed over the ancillary work, right? But eventually, your work is what you ask for. Because there have been times where I have asked for work and I have gotten it also, where I've asked to be put in important transactions and to get important work in that transaction. And I have been allotted that work because they are very cooperative like that. So don't worry about it. It's a pretty great learning experience in that sense. I hope that answers your question. And Amey and Ankit, if you'd like to share your experiences as well.
Yeah, okay. So to add upon, 1 second. Yeah. So to add upon your question, which is there, so how was the mental maths? So broadly, why mental maths is important? So in, let's say you are going to a client meeting, I have faced that I have seen that my senior to do that. So usually what happens is sometimes the client directly asks for an indicative things, and they do run some scenarios. So let's say let's say a client asks for something, let's say what would be the pricing for that. In that way, for the pricing is concerned, we generally have an indicative pricing available to them, that this is the broad ranging for it. But sometimes what happens is they do change some scenarios and they do tweak some scenarios. So let's say this is not happening, let's say a put option is put up there, and how the pricing would get structured. And that time they expect you to give an indicative valuation or indicative pricing, not the exact one. So that's where the mental math skills come to a use. So mainly that is the one of the skill tests which they want to conduct. Like in the case when you're in a client meeting, how you can tackle up such impromptu question when you don't have any backup answer to it. So generally, when you go for a client meeting, we are prepared with all these sort of questions, but sometimes there happens to be a questions which are like, you could say out of the box question or something which are made at that particular point in time through some client rationale. So that's where the mental maths works out. In terms of my experience at HDFC, which I'm working currently, it's great. So I got to work on a couple of transactions, a couple of structuring transaction, couple of debt deal raising transaction. And being from one particular sector, I also got to have kind of pitching for equity transactions as well. Because so sometimes what happens is, let's say you are tracking that client or you are tracking with that particular company and you're dealing with that. And if there is certain transaction which is relating to that company, you do get an option to kind of being involved in, let's say, an acquisition, or let's say pitching to a private equity company. So I was also involved in that particular transaction. And obviously it comes with the dealing. We do deal with directly with the private equity guys, private equity investor, the company and the client. So experience is good as of now, but again, as Sonal rightly said, it's what you ask for. So it's definitely your eagerness to learn things, your step to go an extra mile, that matters the most. So I guess hope that answers that question. Ankit, if you would like to add certain points.
Yeah, so my experience in HDFC was also pretty good. I got to work for raising a Series A for a fintech company where I was a part of many investor pitches. It just gives you a sense of how these people pitch their company and what sort of issues they are facing, and how what are the nitty-gritties of certain things and how to prepare an IM and many other things. So the experience really helps. And obviously, I had a sector agnostic role. Rather, I worked for a infra deal as well and a fintech deal as well. So in terms of experience, this was pretty good. But what I believe experience in any IB organization will be more or less the same. You will have a lot of exposure there, and the work will remain the same irrespective. So yeah, that's there.
Amey, I'll have to leave the call actually due to something. So if you can answer, if you guys can answer the remaining questions, yeah, it was really nice to have this session. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you.
Sonal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bye.
Isha, yeah, bye. Isha, over to you. Isha Singh.
Okay, am I audible to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have three questions. First of all, question is that as the Sonal ma'am already said that in the first round there is an aptitude test. So what are the areas from where to prepare? Like we are a chartered accountant, so we have a less coverage area in the aptitude test areas. So what are the topics and what are the sources from where we can prepare?
Okay.
And another question is that if I want to do the financial modeling course, so from which source it will be what to do, like from Udemy or from as LinkedIn also provide the financial modeling course. And the third one question is like, can you please said about the name of the companies who are hiring right now the CA fresher as an investment banker? So from where on that website we can reach it out and give our CV, uploading our CV for the appointment of the same.
Okay. So first I'll answer
Sorry,
the.
so go on, Amey.
Okay. So first I'll answer about the first question which is there, that is regarding the aptitude test. So broadly in an aptitude test, they generally do not expect you to read something specific because the questions you are not sure. So it's mainly regarding the accounting related question which you are definitely aware of. Certain ratios related question, you can go through what all financial ratios which you have, and then there comes a general knowledge related question, like if you read the newspapers or certain updates related to recent knowledge, like what is a recurrent RBI rate, or what is a broad overview, like, let's say some political crisis which are going on, or let's say some political issues which are there. So broadly these are the aspects which they test upon. So that is accounting and the macroeconomics part of it. Sometimes they do add the maths type of question, the basic general maths, the algebra, geometry, with algebra type questions which can be easily answered. So that's it which is there, and these are pretty manageable questions, so you don't need to learn specific things. This is based on the general knowledge which is there.
And just to add to what Amey is saying, Isha, it would be really helpful for you if you like, we're not promoting anything, but we have seen people in the Vision CA bootcamp last year. One of my mentee going into a JP Morgan investment banking CRG division. So all these questions, something like an aptitude and what sort of questions are asked and how a CV should look like for an IB profile. There are panelists or there are mentors at Vision CA who can really guide you throughout the process of getting into an IB. We cannot give you obviously a guarantee of you will get into IB, but we'll make sure that you are in a correct path for getting into a profile which you want. And this is across profiles, right? This can range from FDD, whatever sort of roles which you are looking for. So there are a lot of roles offered at a Vision CA bootcamp.
And even we got entrant to HDFC investment banking last time. So JP Morgan, HDFC bank, we have a lot of blessed mentors who are actually able to help you in that way. So if you are considering looking for some specific guidance or you want to work your way out, we can assist you with our offer.
Correct.
Yeah. So to add up your
I also asked one more thing, like in the Wipro and another aptitude test, there is a question regarding reasoning questions and all. So whether it is also covered in this aptitude test or not.
Again,
like
now So it's for
all
every
all these
company.
questions rather all these questions what I would try like to say is these are not IB particular questions. It depends on many organizations. For someone like an HDFC O3 will not have all this aptitude tests. Like these are like certain some organization like JP will have this aptitude test and things like that. So what I would like to rather say is the bootcamp process can really aid you on that. And since we are running short of time, I would request if like we have some questions regarding IB. Obviously, for anything related to IB, this we are open to answer.
Yeah. Second question which you have asked regarding the financial modeling, this you can consider certain courses from the Wall Street school which is there, or you can also be breaking into the Wall Street, the Corporate Finance Institute. These are certain recognized sources wherein which you can learn about the financial modeling, and also you can definitely check out and browse through some YouTube videos which are there that will provide you a glimpse of how exactly the valuation is concerned and of how the financial modeling is done. Udemy also provides structured kind of courses, but definitely do check out how exactly the courses are structured and what are the content which is there.
If you are looking to have a good free course, YouTube, you can search for Professor Ashwat Damodaran, who is also known as the God of Valuations. So he uploads a free MBA class on that every spring. So right now the spring valuation class 2022 is going on. He uploads a free seminar, every lecture free. You can go through that. It's a very good value addition.
Okay.
Okay. I guess hope that answers all your questions.
Also, I also asked the question that the name of the companies who are hiring as an investment banker.
Okay, so for that specifically what you can do is see every day there might be different companies. So we are not in direct track of which company is hiring, but we definitely share across whatever openings which we have across the Vision CA circle. So in case that particular point in time, if some company is hiring for particular role, we will share across the Vision
Also,
CA
just to give you a sense, someone like for front office roles, someone like a Kotak hires in the past. They have hired Kotak, HDFC Bank, Avendus is hiring CA freshers. O3 Capital is doing that thing. Ambit is there in the market, hiring CA freshers. JM. So the companies which we presented in the presentation, right? More or less, they do hire SBI caps and many others. So it is up to you how you go there, how you use your references, how you use your connect, and at least try to schedule an interview. Scheduling an interview is very difficult in IB, and I would say scheduling is difficult and clearing is easy rather. So you should have good connects at places. For HDFC, how I got was a LinkedIn connect with the HR, and then she gave me an opportunity to interview with the VP, and things went well. So LinkedIn can be super useful for that thing.
Yeah, even for me it was like IIM jobs, so I just applied through IIM jobs and the HR recruited contacted us. So that's what the broad way. Hope that answers your query, Isha.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Ajit, you are next.
I think Ajit.
Yes. Hello, Ankit. I have a doubt. While telling, you told that instead of getting into big investment banks, you can try in mid investment banks. In that, they are recruiting in front office. From then, you can go to big investment banks. Like that, you told. I heard like that. Is that right?
I am sorry, maybe you misinterpreted it. I would say there are no particular route of getting into IB. I would getting into mid office IB is also equivalently good as you get into a mid office of, let's say, a JP. So there are no particular ways of doing this thing. It is up to you what role you want to get, right? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, but
so I also had this opportunity at JP, but then I chose I would rather go for an HDFC. Someone had an opportunity at, let's say, a mid market, and they chose they would go for a JP because in the end they want to get into a front office JP, which is like a bulge bracket IB organization. it lies up to your interest and up to your perspective of looking things, right? And just one thing, eventually everything will be aligned. Just go with your gut. If your gut says you go for a small, and obviously compensation differs a lot, right? The mid market will rather not pay as good as, let's say, a bulge bracket mid office. So there are many factors which you will have to consider while selecting organizations, but just go with your gut, and eventually things will go good. And that is my certainty, and that is how I got experience with this thing. Like HDFC for me was also equivalently good as compared to a JP mid office. So yeah, eventually things will get
Okay.
aligned.
So what if I'm telling like I'm getting into normal mid-size investment banks front office? I don't want to tell like
you already got an offer. You already got an offer.
No, not like that. Ignoring the salary package like that, the sort of knowledge I will be gaining in mid-size investment banks. After that, I'm getting into a big-size investment bank. What do you think about that?
What do you mean by big-size investment bank is my question, right? What is a big-size investment bank according to you?
To my knowledge, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan.
Correct. So to keep it short, you will have to do your MBA to get into a front office Goldman and JP, because there are pre-MBA roles here, but generally what I have seen is CAs are not given this opportunity of getting into a front end JP Goldman on all this bulge bracket. Obviously, you can enter into EY, who hires CA freshers, MBIT, and all the mid markets, but bulge bracket there is I think very less chances of getting into a front office role without doing an MBA, and MBA is a must for them.
Okay. So where do I get the list of investment banks, highly reputed?
You can Google. You can use Google.
You can also use Google, and we'll share the PDF of the PPT which we prepared, right? So what I have tried to do is I have covered the gist of all the top investment bankings and segregated it as per the domain, right? Who are the leaders in ACM? If you see the left to right, like it goes left to right, ICICI, Kotak, Axis, and the way I had presented. So you can get a sense of investment banking organizations as per their ranking. So that would really help you. And also Googling can be super useful.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Ankit,
we can take only last question, correct? And then we can connect offline.
Yeah, perfect. Aman, you can go ahead next.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, currently I'm in first year article. So if I were to go for industrial training, so do investment banks hire industrial trainees? Like, what is the situation? And also, if in case they hire, what is expected out of industrial trainees? Like, what we can learn?
Yeah, so just to give you a sense, JP Morgan does hire industrial, and to my knowledge, JP Edelweiss, I have seen friends in JP and Edelweiss investment banking industrial trainee roles, and they can directly get in. They will not go to a front office role after industrial trainee. They will again go to a CRG or a mid office role. For example, industrial trainee at JP got a mid office role at JP after clearing his CA. So this is a really good value addition, and I would say a path to get into IB, because since you have an experience of, let's say, 9 to 10 months of working into an IB organization, so this really helps, and you can really look forward to it. But there are also certain cons to this, just like you won't get sufficient time of preparing for your CA final, and if so there are, again, it is up to you how you take things, right? If you do well in your CA final, if you get a rank, and there are many avenues open for you, something like again, rank is not a primary factor, but it really helps to give you an edge, right? So something like a Kotak Avendus will definitely try to hire you. So yeah, industrial trainee will help, but there are also cons to it.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
So yeah, thanks everyone. I hope this was super useful for you. And in case you have any further questions, you can reach out to us directly, and feel free to do that. Thank you.
Thank you everyone. Thanks, Parth, and thanks all the panelists.
Thanks guys for
Thank
coming
you,
in.
panel. It was an amazing session. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ankit. Thank you. Enjoyed a lot and got a lot to learn.